But here's the point. If we were able to have truly healthy supplements easily available to us, and we were taught what actually keeps us healthy, good food, nutrition, etc., and we had true healers and not just crisis care doctors, we could greatly prevent the need for organ donation.
If your continuing search for answers has led you nowhere, you will find the truth here on the Forbidden Doctor podcast. Seek the truth with your hosts, Dr. Jack and Mary Stockwell.
Hey everybody, it's Dr. Jack.
And Mary.
And we are here with podcast episode number 105, Organ Donation. Have you been told the truth? Now, due to some extensive dental work I had to have done this week, I sound
You kind of
funny.
You sound funny.
I'm wearing a dental appliance as a result of an alternative to a root canal. And I am very excited about this new forbidden and revolutionary approach with root canals so in a future podcast, maybe soon,
Yeah.
we can have one of the pioneering doctors involved with this as a guest.
Yes, many people have said that root canals can destroy your health. We've actually been looking into this for a long time. Even Dr. Royal Lee said that it's very deleterious to your health. So we're going to have an incredible podcast on this in the future, and
Yes.
maybe with the doctor that helped us out.
So our podcast
today-
is on organ donation.
Yeah.
And almost everyone has marked their driver's license as an organ donor. And this stems, of course, from the altruistic idea that when medical personnel have declared you or a loved one dead, we just naturally assume that that's true and that you are indeed dead.
Yeah. This may not always be the case. You may not be dead.
Yes.
And as shocking as that sounds, we're going to show you some evidence in this podcast that being declared brain dead may not, in some cases, be true
Yes.
death.
Yes. Now,
So-
we at the Forbidden Doctor feel that you should know all the facts and how a very lucrative business of organ donation has been created by just changing the definition of death.
Wow.
All right.
This podcast, of course, and again, is being brought to you by the Forbidden Doctor. We don't have any advertising on here but us so far. And we were going to spotlight Ageless Thyroid this week because of this great testimonial we got. And let me just read this testimonial. But there's some interesting things that have happened that we're going to tell you about.
Yes, with our thyroid product.
With our thyroid product. I'm just going to read this. I started to take Ageless Thyroid for prevention. Thyroid health is all the buzz right now, but I found Ageless Thyroid to be so much more than thyroid health. After researching many thyroid products, I found that this one provides nutrients for the whole HPA axis, hypothalamus, pituitary, and adrenals. And this is very rare in the supplement industry. In just 3 months, my libido has improved, my moods are more stable, and even my premenstrual acne has gone away. Ageless Thyroid gives me such a feeling of well-being and peace. So there you have, for Valentine's, your libido and your moods would be better. It's
Yes.
almost Valentine's Day. And
A smoother
then
face.
another off-label use, acne again.
Yes.
Isn't that exciting? She also says, hormones can be so confusing, but I know as long as I'm feeding my endocrine system the nutrients it needs, the hormones will always keep me feeling happy and young as they should be.
Yeah, we don't know who this is.
It's from a
just
verified purchaser.
Verified purchase through Amazon.
Yeah, it's kind of exciting. So I decided to spotlight Ageless Thyroid, and I made this slide that shows the incredible ingredients of Ageless Thyroid, but I wanted to really emphasize the desiccated glands that we have in our product, because I could not find another product that had desiccated glands in it.
I know you searched and searched.
I searched everywhere. This one has desiccated whole thyroid. It's thyroxine free. It has no hormones present in it. It has the hypothalamus, the adrenal, the whole pituitary, and the anterior pituitary for the luteinizing.
Yeah, the LH, luteinizing hormone, and the
luteinizing
follicle
hormone
stimulating
for-
hormones.
Yes, for females' menstrual cycles. Yeah. So this is a wonderful product, not just for females, of course. This is also for males. But it's got the iodine, selenium, L-tyrosine, zinc, all from whole food sources. And then 4 herbs, bladderwrack, bacopa, ashwagandha, and guga lipid that nobody else has. But I couldn't find the glandulars. So I found one product right here that I brought in. It's a very popular thyroid product. It's actually one of the better ones I've seen. And I was impressed with it. But it was funny because it says it had fermented minerals in it.
You can't ferment a mineral.
You can't ferment it. There's no bacteria. You can't ferment a mineral. I mean, unless it's in the vegetable where the mineral is, you can ferment that vegetable. But the mineral part...
Yeah, and then
Well,
you might have better
not be-
absorption of the mineral by eating the fermented vegetable.
Right.
But you can't ferment a mineral. I don't know what they mean by
I don't know, but it was great marketing, whatever. But the thing I found, even though this was the best thyroid product I could find, there were no glandulars. It has herbs and vitamins, but that's only part of the picture. Okay, herbs just have a medicinal effect. You need glandulars with herbs to heal your glands. Because herbs can stimulate, but they can't restore or rebuild without food. It can't rebuild your glands. So the best food to restore a gland is another gland. But most people won't eat glands.
Yes, so we have them for you in a pill.
We put them in a pill. Then I went on a little search through Amazon and I looked for different products. Here's one. This is the #1 bestseller in Amazon, the #1 bestseller thyroid support product. $17 with 120 capsules, all synthetic vitamins in there. It's got some herbs, though, some nice herbs, it looks like. Then the next one I found was, it has 1,400 reviews, and they were almost all 5 stars. I mean, it's crazy. All these herbs and synthetic vitamins. And then Amazon's recommended thyroid support was this $19 one with 60 caps. And then the last one I decided to show you is just a synthetic, full of synthetic vitamins, which actually all of them were, for $25, 120 capsules for $25. I could not find one thyroid product with glandulars on Amazon. So I was telling my staff this, and Jill, our nutritionist, said, well, I had a patient bring in a product, a thyroid support product the other day, that did have glandulars in it. And there it is. There's the supplement facts. It's got thyroid, adrenal, pituitary, and spleen, and iodine. To me, it's a really nice product. I like it. It has 900 micrograms of iodine. Ours has 7,500 micrograms of iodine. Theirs have 110 milligrams of glandulars, which is really good. I'm really happy there's a product like this. But ours has 635 milligrams of glandulars, plus ours has 4 herbs and selenium and zinc. So I wanted to show that there are other products out there, but not on Amazon. And guess what? Neither is
No, we got yanked.
Neither is our ageless thyroid. Our product is no longer on Amazon. We got yanked again, like they yanked our long life energy enzymes because we mentioned the word diabetes and cancer, but they're there. But our long life is still there because they have this rule that no product can have desiccated thyroid in it at all. Now, they don't say anything about the others, and I hope they don't, because our long life energy has pancreas, glandular in there, because a pancreas is both an exocrine gland and an endocrine gland. So it's both a gland and an organ, but they haven't said anything about having, whole food pancreas yet. But they said we can't sell it. So it's in appeal. Maybe we'll get it back.
What we have to do is assure them that there are no thyroid hormones in the product. And if we can do that, then we might be able to get away with it.
Yeah, there are no hormones. We wouldn't want hormones in that. You shouldn't be eating hormones. You should be eating the food that rebuilds your own hormone glands.
Yes.
So we're going to show you a really cute video so you can see the difference between fake and not fake. Here we go. Can you believe that? A whale. Here comes a slow motion version.
Coming right out of the gymnasium floor in this grade school. might be a middle school, but look at the kids. You can see them looking up. You can see them reacting to this. And it's just the effect of lasers creating a hologram right there in the room.
Is that amazing? These kids are scared. They're shocked. They can't believe this is happening.
I mean, the gym I grew up in didn't have any whales coming up. We had some ants.
I heard you didn't have a gym in elementary school.
Well, actually, the gym was outside. It was a cement pad with basketball
How old
standards
are you
with no
again?
nets.
Yeah. See, if you'd seen something like this. Now watch, they're going to show it again. This is amazing.
Watch the kids. Watch their heads. How they can respond to something really bad.
I mean, how can you trust anything anymore?
You know, if you're not standing there watching it, and then these kids were sitting there watching it, you can't trust that either.
Yeah, this is the age we live in. So
Oh,
you
my
get
goodness.
thyroid products with no glandulars in it. And our compounder that put our product together was so excited when he saw that we wanted glandulars in our product. He says, I ask every single person that makes vitamins with me to please put in some glandulars, some kind of organ.
But they want to do it on the cheap.
Yeah.
They don't want it. They don't want to invest in it. They
So
don't-
ours isn't the cheapest.
No,
but,
not by far.
But actually, for what you get, I think it is.
Yeah.
So let's just jump right in here with the disclaimer. This website's podcast is not intended to be a diversion away from the current system of disease management. It is our intention to offer a rational and very effective approach to aiding your body in its ability to rebuild and heal. Please be advised that any suggested nutritional advice or dietary advice is not intended as any primary treatment or therapy for any disease or particular bodily system. Nutritional counseling, supplement vitamin recommendations, nutritional advice, and the adjunctive schedule of nutrition is provided solely. Do you want to finish even with your appliance?
To upgrade the quality of foods in the patient's diet in order to supply good nutrition supporting the physiological and biomechanical processes of the human body.
Yeah, I have to put that in.
Yeah, what he said.
Yeah, we got to keep it safe here, these disclaimers. So we want to move right into the weekly feature, Forbidden Secrets They Don't Want You to Know. These are the secret things they keep from you, the dumb things they tell you, and the really important things they know nothing about.
So I have a young patient. She's in her 20s. She's a nurse. I've been taking care of her since she was a child. And she works in an oncology clinic, and she administers chemotherapy. And I haven't seen her maybe.
Is that her main job? She administers the chemo?
All day long, she just administers chemo.
Like this picture shows?
Like this picture showing here.
Okay.
And so...
Except for this lady's smiling.
Well, they haven't started it.
So tell your story.
Anyway, I haven't seen her for a number of years. She had a recent fall on the ice and hurt herself and wanted to see me. And in the meantime, since I've seen her, she has been, before, a chemo nurse. And so I thought, oh my gosh, I have a couple questions I've got to ask you, because we've done many podcasts on Dr. Beard, Dr. Gonzalez, and what Dr. Gonzalez had to say about hard cancers, soft cancers, and the effectiveness of chemotherapy.
And Dr. Kelly.
And that chemotherapy only works on soft cancers, which are basically cancers of the blood and the lymph. Lymphoma, leukemias, things like that. Outside of that, it's very ineffective.
So the hard cancers, you're talking like colon cancer, breast cancer,
Breast, pancreas,
liver cancer,
liver, kidney,
those
brain,
tumor
lung, skin, sarcomas, things like that, that chemo simply does not work on. And so I asked her that. I said, what I just said to you, I understand it's effective for soft cancers, but when we're dealing with hard cancers, and before I could barely get the S out of cancers out of my mouth, she said, oh, they're goners.
Wow.
She said it just like that. She said, oh, they're goners. And it shocked me, because it was just like she was telling me the time or the color of the scrubs that she was wearing. I mean, it was that matter of fact. Oh, they're goners. I said, what do you mean they're goners? Oh, they're not going to survive. And I said, well, what's the effect of the chemo? Well, it gives them a little time. In some cases, it will actually shrink the tumor for a bit, And in using surgery and some radiation, it'll help to shrink the tumor, but it won't get rid of it. They'll come back, and it'll come back with vengeance.
But she's talking about people that don't do anything else. They just come in for chemo.
Just go straight medical.
They
nothing
don't
else.
listen to us or anybody else that tries to change the reason for the cancers.
They won't change the
Yeah,
environment.
to do gaps. Yeah, to change their thinking, as in podcast 101.
Yes.
Which we talked about how genes don't, determine your health, and where you can change the picture in your mind and change your entire health profile, or change your dietary aspects of your life, or do gaps, or anything else. These are just people that came in to do chemo, and she, as her experience shows, people that just follow without the combination of the allopathic medicine and the alternative medicine.
Yes.
Just the allopathic, just the medical side, she said, they're goners.
They're goners. So we talk about that a lot in podcast 95 and 101. We have many podcasts on cancer, but
Yeah.
95 and 101.
And
gets
95
into
is with Dr. Joseph Hentel, and where he had the lymphoma, which is a soft cancer, but he didn't use any chemotherapy. And
this.
completely.
He just did a change of lifestyle.
He did a massive change of lifestyle and
and he's
changed
been
the
in remission since 2011.
Yeah, he changed the environment and where the cancer would grow.
So what's the purpose of doing? I ask her, so why do you bother doing this for heart cancers? Oh, it gives them a little time. Gives them a little time for family to get their affairs in order, but they're goners.
But I like the combination of the two, and I wish we could use it because I don't have any problem with people doing chemo. I would never talk anybody out of that.
No.
In fact, I have...
We tell people to follow their doctor's orders.
and follow their heart.
Yeah.
As Anita Morjani says, if that brings you to a greater sense of oneness inside of your body, that's what can help heal the cancer.
Yes.
So, joining and marrying those two, the allopathic and the alternative, I think is a perfect combination. I don't ever want you to get the idea that we are telling you to not do.
Oh, heavens no. We're not cancer doctors.
No, not follow your doctor's advice by any means. We're giving you forbidden information, the other side that you guys don't get to hear. And that's something you didn't get to hear. You probably don't know a chemotherapy nurse that administers chemotherapy that would say they're goners. Oh, they're
Yeah.
gone.
Yeah, she's young. She's still a little bit naive, but she wasn't hiding anything or holding anything back. They're goners.
But she thought the chemo worked well on the leukemia.
But she
and
said it was very effective for leukemias and for lymphomas.
yeah, which is what Dr. Gonzalez says
Well,
also.
that was what they first experimented back in the 1920s, following World War I, when they found out. I don't know how far we want to go into this.
the nerve poison.
Well, the mustard gas.
Oh, yeah, it was
and
mustard gas.
And when
Isn't that the
they
same
would
thing?
check the blood of the people who survived the mustard gas, they were doing experiments, and the stem cells were gone.
Yeah.
They had no stem cells. And they thought, well, that's awfully odd. And then eventually, later on, the stem cells would return. But it's the stem cells that become cancer cells. The old idea that cancer
Old cells
yes, old cells
turn
go
in-
crazy.
It's not true. That's
yeah.
forbidden information you didn't know until you listened to our cancer
Right.
podcast.
And so it comes from
Stem cells
stem
mutating.
cells. And so they've experimented with that, thinking that somehow this mustard gas derivative in chemotherapy today would have the same effect. Well, it doesn't on heart cancers. When the cancer cell permeates and protrudes through the epithelial layer of the organ, it's over with. They're goners.
As
It's
she
just
said.
a matter of time, as she said. I'm not trying to sound cavalier here, and I'm not trying to sound cold and heartless by any means. It's just what a chemo nurse told me the other day, knocked my socks off. To this day, I don't think she knows how much she surprised me with what she said.
Yeah. Well, we have tried to come up with different taglines in the past. Some have been more catchy than others, but we always felt like we were missing something in trying to get this Forbidden Doctor podcast or Forbidden Doctor information and message across. So we found one from antiquity that might work.
It's attributed to Hippocrates, but that's not completely correct. He didn't exactly say it this way. This is more of a modern expression, and for some reason it's been simply cast aside and forgotten in order to increase the bottom line of modern healthcare industry that has become disease management, not avoiding harm.
So if you notice, it's down at the bottom right. And the tagline, by the way, for those of you that aren't watching the webinar type podcast, it's first, do no harm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Great advice.
Yeah.
Great advice.
And it goes along with our organ donation podcast we're going to
Yes.
begin here in a minute. But one more last thing, really important things they know nothing about. Modern healthcare is in the business of disease management, not the business of curing disease, which means they monitor the symptoms while the process of the disease continues. Just as in this satire video shows, what you think is a bank guard is just monitoring what's going on rather than curing it. So this is a
great.
free commercial for LifeLock, but
Yes.
it's so good.
Do something.
Oh, I'm not a security guard. I'm a security monitor.
Why monitor a problem if you don't fix it? LifeLock helps protect your identity better than free credit monitoring services. Join starting at $9.99 a month.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't use LifeLock, but we
Yeah.
had to. We had to use it.
Yeah, that's hilarious. That just reminded us when Jack and I see that all the time on TV. We're like, oh, that's just like the pharmaceutical industry. We have run across this really interesting and intelligent MD. He's a neonatologist and a pediatrician. He's the founder of the Neonatal Intensive Care Unit at SSM Cardinal Glennon Children's Medical Center in St. Louis, Missouri. He's a clinical professor of pediatrics at the University of Toledo College of Medicine. And
Paul Byrne,
Dr. Paul Byrne.
and this is the second of a 4-video series. They're all about 15, 16, 18 minutes long. I think this one's 18 minutes.
We're just going to show one of the
Yeah,
four.
we're only going to show one of the 4 that really gets to the heart of the matter. At the bottom of that slide, you can see a reference to the article above in full length that is well worth reading.
That's called Do You Really Want to Be an Organ Donor?
Yeah, Dr. Byrne here is not a highly polished professional public speaker.
Yeah, so bear with him.
But what he has to say is vitally important on this topic. So we're going to go ahead and play this 18-minute video.
It's forbidden information that we didn't know about. We were surprised. I mean, Jack found this video, and we're looking at each other going, did you know that? No, I didn't know that. Did you know that? And we
right.
thought we would share it with you. Some people might take issue with it, but this guy's been around a long time. I think he knows what he's talking about. And we're not taking an absolute stand on either side, but we thought we would bring you this forbidden information that not very many people know.
Yeah.
So here we go. It's called Brain Death and Organ Harvesting, and there's the link up there if you want to see his other slides or other videos.
Hello. We want to continue the discussion about life and brain death and death. Brain death was invented in 1967, 1968 to get beating hearts for transplantation. The first set of criteria was known as the Harvard criteria. It was invented by a committee at Harvard and set up what they could call absence of certain reflexes of the brain and certain functions of the brain. The main function that they tested was the ability to breathe. But after the Harvard criteria came the Minnesota criteria. And between 1968 and 1978, there were 30 different sets of criteria published. Every set of criteria became less strict than the previous set of criteria. And so as a result of that, and there are many more now, a person can be declared brain dead by one set of criteria, but yet would be considered to be living by another set of criteria. Well, what happened in Oklahoma, and it just happens to be that I have a recording of that, Zach Dunlap was injured on a four-wheel vehicle and was said to be brain dead. It's important because his story was told all over the world, and I'll show you a recording of that. Of one of those stories as it was put out on the television world. And what you'll see in there is you'll hear the neurosurgeon talking about how he had a catastrophic injury. You'll also see an image of his brain, It's actually said to be a PET scan, which is a kind of image of his brain, but you'll see that his brain is black, that there is no circulation to his brain. And in spite of having this declaration of brain death confirmed by no circulation to his brain, you will see him then as the interviewer is interviewing him on the TV.
Medevac to a hospital 50 miles away, Zach's prognosis couldn't have been worse.
His brain injuries were absolutely catastrophic.
With Zach unresponsive to any sensory stimulation, the hospital's director of trauma services ordered a comprehensive brain scan study. He showed Zach's parents what he saw.
He told us the dark areas will be the areas where there's no blood flow to the brain.
And that was the whole brain. That was the whole thing. It was just black.
Were the doctors giving you any sense of hope?
They'd already seen his brain dead.
Pam and Doug were told they could expect the harvesting of Zach's organs to get underway within the next 12 to 24 hours. With the clock winding down, the hospital notified authorities that Zach had died at 11:10 that morning, 36 hours after the accident. As a helicopter sent by the organ donation team was scheduled to land, friends and relatives gathered to say their goodbyes. That's when everything changed. Divine intervention, said his family, set in motion by Dan and Christy Coffin, Zach's cousins, who were also both nurses.
I started getting this different feeling in my gut, and I thought, he's not ready.
Dan wondered the same thing as he looked at the monitor to study Zach's vital signs.
Things were just looking better to me.
What did you do?
I grabbed his foot and I pulled my pocket knife out and I scraped from his heel up to his toes.
Dan and Christy said they got the shock of their lives.
He jerked his foot plumb out of my hand.
Was it possible? Was Zach still alive? Needing to challenge even his own skepticism, Dan said,
"Let's try this." So I grabbed Zach's hand and I stuck my fingernail underneath his fingernail. You know, that's a tender area. And Zach just threw his hand over here. And by now, this
so
kind
he
of...
physically moved that arm
his hand
over his
away
body.
from me, across his body.
And I kind of drew up inside myself, you know, and I'm like, oh my God.
I indeed verified that these were purposeful movements.
Purposeful movement rather than a reflex twitch is a telltale sign of brain activity. Suddenly, 4 hours after Zach was declared brain dead, his room was bustling. Pam and Doug were out in the hall getting ready to head back in to spend their final hours with their son when they were stopped.
The lady that we've been talking to from the organ liaison came in and sat down with us, and she said, everything has stopped.
And what stopped was the taking of his organs. And of course, Zach is still very much alive. And if he'd been like many others that are declared brain dead and had his vital organs cut out, he would be dead. Now, when they take organs, they get more than one organ, and usually it's a minimum of 3 organs that they take. And so what I'm going to show you now is what's called a multi-organ procurement from a deceased donor. And this is from a textbook on transplantation. The word deceased is used, and deceased, when you look it up in the dictionary, it's stated to be a departure from life. It comes from the Latin word decessus, which means death. You will see in the next presentation where they open the pericardium. The pericardium is the coverings around the heart, and you will see that behind that pericardium and inside of that pericardium is the beating heart. You'll see a beating heart in a deceased donor.
Incision starting from the sternal notch to the pubis is made. The sternum is divided and the thoracic organs are exposed. The self-retaining retractor can be used, and the pericardium is divided to expose the heart and the pericardial cavity. The falciform ligament is divided.
So you were able to see the beating heart. Clearly the heart is beating in someone who is said to be deceased. But of course, they aren't truly dead, as anyone can see. Someone with a beating heart and circulation and respiration cannot be considered to be truly dead. The apnea test is mandatory in the declaration of brain death. I call it a pull-the-plug apnea test because they pull the plug up to 10 minutes. This is on a patient with an injury to the brain that is on a ventilator. When they pull the plug up to 10 minutes, it's suffocating the patient. The patient is suffocated for up to 10 minutes. The carbon dioxide is not allowed to get out, and when the carbon dioxide doesn't come out, it causes the brain swelling. There's no informed consent about this. After all, who could give consent to someone to say, suffocate my son or suffocate my daughter for 10 minutes, put a pillow over them so they can't get any carbon dioxide out? No one would ever stand for that. The apnea test, and the patient must prove that he can breathe without a ventilator, or this is the signal to cut out his beating heart and other vital organs. The test itself can cause further damage to an already compromised brain. The apnea test is not a predictor, but it's a lethal action. And the relatives must learn, and they must instruct no, no, no to the apnea test. But you know what, folks? What happens is that the doctor says, well, it's the law. And how do I know that? Because the parents tell me. They call me up, and I talk to the doctor. The doctor says it's the law. I tell them, no, it's not the law. There's no law that says you have to suffocate a patient. And everyone needs to know, no, no, no to the apnea test. Brain death is not used to get organs as much as that used to be used. They've changed from brain death to heart death. Donation by brain death is abbreviated as DBD, and donation by cardiac death is abbreviated as DCD. And so what happens now in patients who are on a ventilator and they have some evidence of a functioning brain, but they want their organs, so the first thing they do is get a do not resuscitate. Once they have the do not resuscitate, then the patient is taken off the ventilator for about 10 minutes. And during that time, they observe how deep the patient breathes and how fast the patient breathes. And out of that, they come up with a score. It's known as the Wisconsin score. And the Wisconsin score is then used as a prediction as to how long it will be until they won't have any evidence of pulsation or breathing, whether it will take 1 hour or 2 hours. And when they take them off the ventilator for the second time, the heart continues to beat, but they wait until the beat is not strong enough for a pulse. When they're without a pulse, but they still have heartbeat. For how long without a pulse? Sometimes 5 minutes, some places 2 minutes. And one article in the New England Journal of Medicine, and 2 babies in Colorado, they took them off the ventilator for 75 seconds. 75 seconds without a pulse was the signal to have their beating heart cut out. And then they cut out the beating heart and the other organs from these babies. It's important to separate organ transplantation from tissue transplantation. The organs that are transplanted are all vital organs. It's the heart, lungs, kidneys, liver, pancreas, and then the intestine. And they all must come from living persons. They're declared brain dead or declared heart dead, DBD or DCD, but cannot be truly dead. After someone is truly dead, there are essentially no vital organs that can be transplanted. Now, tissues are different, and they can get tissues after there's no circulation and no respiration. The tissues that are taken are the skin, the bones, the corneas, the veins, heart valves, and connective tissues. The cornea is an interesting tissue because it's the front part of the eye, and God made it so there's no blood vessels. If we put blood vessels, we'd have to see, like between blood vessels, but no blood vessels. The cornea needs oxygen, but gets oxygen from the environment through the tears, so they can get the corneas after there's no circulation. They can get the corneas several hours after there's no circulation. Heart valves don't have circulation either, so they can use the heart valves. Incidentally, when they transplant an organ, the medication must be given that's anti-rejection medication, because we are all created in such a way that organs cannot be transplanted from one to another. But human beings have found a way to overcome nature, to overcome what God has done to protect us in terms of receiving organs. The Uniform Determination of Death Act came about after the Harvard criteria. It gives two different ways to be declared dead. One with the irreversible cessation of circulatory and respiratory functions, and the other is irreversible cessation of all the functions of the entire brain, including the brainstem. This sounds strict and strong, but then the determination of death is made in accordance with accepted medical standards. Accepted medical standards are whatever the doctor says, whatever the hospital says. The accepted medical standards are the weakest of all medical standards. Prior to the use of accepted medical standards, doctors had to practice in accord with reasonable standards or ordinary standards, and yet they're able to practice with what's called accepted standards. What's the difference? For instance, in the declaration of brain death, it's ordinary to do a recording of brain waves before you declare them brain dead, yet it's accepted not to do that. It would be reasonable to record electrical activity, yet it's accepted not to record electrical activity. When did the standard of accepted medical standards come about? It came about with the Karen Ann Quinlan case. The Karen Ann Quinlan case is considered to be the index case for the right to die movement. What happens is that these things are within our society. It's within the culture that we live in, and the medical community changes, the legal community changes. And then the laws continue to be made. For instance, there's the Uniform Anatomical Gift Act that's already been passed in 45 states, and it presumes that everyone intends to be an organ donor. It presumes that everyone has consented to all measures necessary to ensure suitability to living patients. So all tests to determine if their organs are suitable, all measures to keep their organs in good shape until they can find someone to give them to. Prior to the revision of this act, you had to be of sound mind to become an organ donor, yet that sound mind was stricken from the Uniform Anatomical Gift Act. It lacks full and explicit consent. If you have an advanced directive that says you do not want to be resuscitated, you will be resuscitated until they determine if your organs are suitable for transplantation. The Uniform Anatomical Gift Act was originally written was to take place after death, but now they changed it to near death. Keep in mind that near death means to be alive. It's written into the law, communicating in any manner is determined to be intends. And children can give organs, 16, 15 and a half. In some states, 14, they can say that they're willing to donate their organs. And with children, as with all the rest of us, if you say no, that doesn't get recorded anyplace. The Uniform Anatomical Gift Act has been already passed in 45 states. It's not a good law. The Uniform Determination of Death has multiple ways that you can be declared to be dead. And then don't forget the HIPAA law. The HIPAA law, you think, is there for the protection of your privacy so far as records are concerned and the like. Yet the HIPAA law has 14 ways that the government can get your information and use it without your permission. And one of the ways is to embark on getting your organs. And all of that is written into the HIPAA law. The recommended standard that Dr. Weaver and I would give for the declaration of death is that no one should be declared dead unless there is no respiration, no heartbeat, and no circulation. And I put in the word irremediable. to distinguish from irreversible. Irremediable has to do with the fact that we don't know how, and we've tried to correct all of these things. Irreversible is a different word, and you can only know it by the opposite. The declaration of death must be determined in accord with universally accepted standards. The standard ought not change, ought not be different from Ohio to Indiana, or ought not be different in the United States versus China. This is solidly based medically, ethically, and religiously unexceptionable. Thank you very much.
Well, that's kind of hard-hitting, isn't it?
Yeah, he in the first video, which I wish we had had time to play it first, he goes into really explicit detail about what happens when you are dead. In other words, they can push air into you, but if you can't push it out.
That's a sign. When he says a cessation of respiratory function, he means that as long as a ventilator is pumping air into you and the air comes out, the ventilator didn't suck it out.
Right.
You pushed it out.
You're still alive.
But if you're dead, the ventilator will expand the chest, but it'll stay expanded. It won't come out.
Yeah, and then he talks about the circulatory system and all kinds of different aspects of what true death is. But I'm telling you, look at this.
This is the person, Zachary, the one he's talking about.
Yeah. Zach, yeah, the dead.
He was declared dead after 36 hours of being brought into the hospital. 4 hours later, he wakes up, and his neurosurgeon says he's now back to 98 to 100%. That picture there in the top right shows the dead brain. No circulatory activity. One would only normally think, this brain is gone. But we don't know to the level that imaging device was able to see everything that was going on. In other words, when he talks later about cardiac death as opposed to brain death, what they do is they have a system, according to the Wisconsin schedule, that if the breathing and the pulse gets down to a certain point, they can be considered dead even though the heart is still beating. In this picture here, we don't know, at that top right picture, whether there was still blood or not. That picture there would indicate that there's no blood in the brain at all. But there he is, a few hours later, there in the hospital bed, sitting up. And on the right, what do we have? 98 to 100% recovery right there.
Yeah.
Of someone who was, in fact, the surgical team was showing up to take his organs out of his body.
Well, speaking of that, here's another article. Organ donor wakes up just before harvesting of her body parts. A 41-year-old woman named Colleen Burns was declared brain dead by doctors at a Syracuse, New York hospital. After hearing this prognosis, her family gave permission for the doctors to begin transplant procedures. But Colleen wasn't dead. In fact, she opened her eyes to those bright lights in the operating theater or room, just as the physicians were getting ready for their harvest. They paid no attention to the nurse's observation indicating Burns was not dead and her condition was improving.
Hey,
guess they were in a hurry.
They had a tea time they had to hurry up and get to. I don't know. Well,
yeah, that's another thing that Dr. Burns said is that dead people don't heal. People that they have declared brain dead are still healing.
Their bodies are still healing.
Well, obviously with Zach, the boy on the ATV, he was still healing. That's a big sign you're still alive.
And the body is still warm.
And
the body temperature will equivocate with the temperature in the room when you're dead.
Yeah. So, Dr. Byrne talked about Karen Ann Quinlan, and I remember that when that happened. And, she was taken off the ventilator and she lived another 10 years, I think.
Yeah, something like that, right.
She wasn't, I guess she didn't suffocate, obviously. But I think there comes a time where, the quality of life versus, would you want to be kept alive like that? I had an uncle that was kept in a vegetative state, which Dr. Byrne disagrees with also. He says there's no vegetative states. People are alive or they're dead, but they're not vegetables. But my uncle lived for 16 years, I think, because he would open his eyes slightly and then close them. So they, you can't kill them or anything, and he wasn't brain dead, and so, by law, he was in that state. But you wonder where this line is, but if I were a parent, I would wait.
Well, this is when the medical ethicists get involved, those who teach medical ethics.
Yeah. So here's two people that did wake up, but this article, from CNN, this neurologist said no one who has met the criteria for brain death has ever survived. No one.
Yeah, Dr. Richard Senelik, a neurologist, said no one.
No one. Well, that's not true. We just played two.
Yep.
And this was this big argument over this little 13-year-old girl that went in for tonsillectomy and woke up. They said brain dead. And so the parents fought because they wanted to harvest her organs.
Yeah.
And they found a care facility that was willing to open their facility up for this girl.
And it just caused a lot of debate and controversy all the way across the country. Some doctors were saying this is a corpse. They're desecrating a dead body.
Yeah.
How do you say that to parents when their child's heart is still beating and they're praying desperately for the recovery of her child, and they're calling their child a corpse?
Yeah. The people that took her in, the outpatient facility, said this child has been defined as a deceased person, yet she still has all the functional attributes of a living person despite her brain injury. So, and then some of the other video, well, it was in the first video, I think, where they showed
Dr. Byrne?
With Dr. Byrne, where he showed a little baby that was mentally retarded, and this was back in the 1960s when they were first starting to do heart transplants.
Yeah.
And they took this baby's heart out. They put the baby in ice. And
to slow down the metabolism.
Yeah, and took the heart out and put it in another baby that wasn't mentally retarded, and they both died.
Yeah.
They both ended up dying, but...
Well, the first one's going to die because its heart's been taken.
Well, of course, yeah, that's the cause of death there, taken out. So again...
But we wanted to include that slide just to show the other side of the picture. It's we on that slide we had the link you can go to and see the entire presentation on that young lady.
Yeah, Dr. Byrne is really against taking any organs ever, ever, ever. He says they're not dead until the circulation stops, till they can't expel air on their own. But we want to make this aware to all of you because heart transplants or organ transplants have saved lives. And I don't know where the cutoff is between, I wouldn't want to be kept alive for 10 years, 16 years if I didn't have any quality of life. So we just wanted to make you aware of this because we believe the vast majority of transplants are from truly terminal patients, and they bring great joy in saving the lives of others.
Yeah, so we're trying to show you both sides. And what we're trying to say is, well, why don't you wait a week or two? If this happened to my family, if this happened to you, sweetie, or to our sons or daughters, I would wait a week or two. Regardless of what the brain scan shows, I would want to wait a week or two to see if the same thing isn't... the problem is so many people, the minute they're considered brain dead, and then they tell the family, gather around them, say your goodbyes, once somebody signs off on a piece of paper, which they don't have to. What would have happened 12 hours later, 14, 16, a week later, 10 days later?
We don't know. I don't know anybody personally that's been a recipient. Oh, yes, I do. My best friend growing up, she had 2 kidneys transplanted into her. Yeah. One failed, and she had another one.
Well, you can give up a kidney without dying.
Oh, well, that's true.
But you can't a heart.
Yeah, but I have had a nephew that died from a brain injury, and his organs were all transplanted. So this hits really, really home to me.
Yeah.
This is a really hard subject, and I wish we had had time to play the first video because he goes into much more detail about what constitutes death and what doesn't. So
we gave them the link.
We give them the link.
They can see it if they want to.
Yeah, so you can see both sides. But here's the point. If we were able to have truly healthy supplements easily available to us, and we were taught what actually keeps us healthy, good food, nutrition, etc., and we had true healers and not just crisis care doctors, we could greatly prevent the need for organ donation, as the major cause of organ dysfunction, which is malnutrition, would be eliminated.
Yeah, we firmly believe that the major cause of physical disease and suffering in America today is not caused by bacteria or viruses or genes or even stress. It's the long, slow, torturous starvation that results from our modern food industry that is severely lacking in the essential nutrients. So part of our roles, Mary and I, as the producers of the Forbidden Doctor podcast, is just try to help people wake up to the level of malnutrition in this country that's caused by the modern food industry.
And we're purposely kept from this information by evil and designing men and women, I'm sure.
We're much more concerned about the bottom line of their quarterly reports than they are actually providing healthy food.
Yeah, so we want to go to the foundational problem for this organ dysfunction and needing organ transplants with, at least some of these foundational supplementation. And the one we did want to highlight is the ageless thyroid. And there's all the ingredients, of ageless thyroid, which is food. And we're not able to now sell this on Amazon.
Oh, we take this removal of our product from Amazon as a feather in our cap, don't we, sweetie?
Yeah, it's a pat on the back.
Yeah, it's a recognition that we've truly produced something that heals and can actually help, because we refuse to sell a substandard product for a cheaper price.
Yeah.
So this is not allowed on Amazon anymore, but it is on our website, forbiddendoctor.com.
Yeah.
And it is the sale of that product, as well as our enzymes, that makes these podcasts possible.
Yeah. So to recap, despite the hard reality and the anxiety this podcast created, we want to recognize the joy you feel when a loved one has been saved by an organ transplant. We just wanted you to know there's a forbidden side to organ transplants.
Yep.
These statements in this webinar about specific products have not been evaluated by the United States Food and Drug Administration and are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent disease. All information provided or any information contained on or in any product label or packaging or this webinar is for informational purposes only and is not intended as a substitute for advice from your physician or other healthcare professionals. It is not intended also as advice on donor or organ donation.
That is
just wanted to inform you.
That is a personal decision. I'm glad I've never had to make that decision. I hope I never have to make that decision. But after having studied Dr. Byrne and the words that he has to say about this whole thing, should I be in an influential position to make a decision in something like this, I'm going to say wait a week or two. Just wait a week or two. They'll come back and say, you know how much is it going to cost to wait another week or two? Well, wait another week or two. I don't care.
Yeah, and they will say the organs will degrade and...
Not if the heart is beating and the nasogastric tube is providing nutrition.
You are still healing.
And yes, you're still healing. That's ridiculous.
You're warm. You're not cold.
Yeah, that's right.
You're alive.
All right, that'll do it.
Okay. Remember, you can always call us, text us, or email us with questions. We'll help you. You can text. That's a wonderful thing. You can text us anytime or come in to see us. We'll help as many people as we have to keep up with the demand. We will hire 5,000 people if we have to, because we can do this. We can start a health revolution and rip a hole in the healthcare universe.
And by the way, we're way behind on answers.
I know.
We're way behind on questions. We'll catch up.
Yeah.
All right, we'll see you next week.
See you next week.
Thank you for listening to the Forbidden Doctor podcast. If you are curious about long life energy enzymes or ageless thyroid, you can purchase them without a membership from our website at forbiddendoctor.com or get our enzyme formula from amazon.com by searching the full term Long Life Energy Enzymes. Don't forget to take our obligation-free symptom survey to get a free personalized supplement protocol recommended for you by Dr. Jack, Mary, or one of our qualified nutritionists. Take the survey, get a call from our nutritionist to create a protocol and a patient login, then use that login to see your own personal protocol along with any favorites you've saved from our symptom library. Remember, our website and our clinic are here for you always.